Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we would look at how to use the prior year tax return when you are preparing the tax return for the current year. Well, the first thing you need to know, the prior year return, if you have them, if the client have them, and if they can provide them to you, they could be used as a starting point, as the foundation for the current year. Why? Think about it. The prior year return will have the taxpayer information, filing status, whether they have a dependent or not, their address, elections that they made. So before starting the current year, it's always a good idea to look and understand the taxpayer historical tax position before looking at the new information. It just basically gives you a starting point. And this approach will minimize, will reduce the risk of missing certain information, specifically missing reoccurring income, like W-2 wages, like if they have a self-employment income, 1099, it will show on the prior year. This way you would ask them for it this year. Any deduction, it's basically serving as a reference document throughout the preparation. Well, I think they're missing the 1099 INT, interest income. They had interest income last year. You can ask them about it. So rather than starting from a blank return, you would start by building this foundation in order to ask the right question. So a preparer reviewing the prior year return may observe that the taxpayer consistently have interest income from a savings account. You will ask them for that. Why? Because it was there last year. So by comparing the two returns, you can identify some missing category. Let's also look at specifically at other information you would look at when you are dealing with a current tax year return, but looking at the prior year as the foundation. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com. You are here because you are serious about mastering taxation. Whether you are taking a tax course, studying for the CPA exam, or enrolled agent, tax feels overwhelming, not because it's impossible, but because it's dense, detailed, and often taught at a pace that doesn't match the way you learn. The rules can feel disconnected, and the logic isn't always explained clearly. At Farhat Lectures, we slow it down. We explain the why behind the rules, break concept into simple steps, and rebuild your understanding from the ground up without assuming any prior knowledge. When explanation matches your learning, everything changes. The confusion fades, the rules start to connect, and tax becomes manageable. If you are ready to understand tax with clarity and confidence, start your free trial at farhatlectures.com and let's build your tax foundation together. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is the most important is looking at reoccurring income sources. Let's list some reoccurring income sources. And obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but this is a starting list. Wages, interest, self-employment. If they have them last year, if you were working last year, what happened this year? Why don't you have your W-2? If you had interest income, did you liquidate your certificate of deposit? Did you withdraw your money? We need to know because you had interest income last year. If you're self-employed, that's very important. And with self-employment comes so many different deductions and expenses. Why? Because you have a Schedule C, and on Schedule C, again, you have all these listed expenses and sources of income. If you have any capital loss carry forward. Now, if you don't know at this point what's capital loss is when you sell capital asset like stocks and you incur losses and you could not use those losses in prior years. You can carry them over because you are limited in how much capital losses you can take per year. Same thing for net operating loss if you have a business. If you have a business and you have losses from prior year, and if you don't know what these are, you would learn them later on. Net operating loss carry forward, it's the losses from operating a business. You can carry them forward. Other carry forward AMTs, alternative minimum taxes, adoption credit. They could carry those credits forward. Also, if you have a business, obviously you might have assets, building, equipment, machinery. You're going to have a depreciation schedule. So you need to know how much depreciation to take from year to year. So you need that schedule to determine your depreciation amount. Also, if you sell an asset, you might have to determine the gain or the loss. And it's based on the asset basis. And the asset basis is based on the depreciation schedule. So you need this information from prior year or prior years for that matter sometimes. But this is why we need prior year information in order to be in a good standing at starting this year. So you would use the prior year as a comparative review. For example, you could look at them side by side, identify any missing income or missing deductions. Now, most software, I'm familiar with TurboTax, and most software, what they do at the end of the return, they will show you last year and this year. And they will show you comparative and income, deduction, everything side by side. So when you have the last year information, you can easily identify any unusual increases or decreases. You can detect if there's too much income, too little, too much deduction, too little. It will show it to you. It could be all legitimate and fair, but at least you're looking at it and you know exactly what's going on. So it's going to help you in your professional judgment, and it's going to support your inquiries. When you're asking questions, you are asking the right questions. Why? Because you have data. You have data you're looking at, and you can ask the taxpayer specifically about this information. And obviously, it's going to enhance accuracy and compliance because you are asking them for everything. A good example would be, let's assume they had rental income last year. Okay, what does it mean if you have rental income Schedule A? It means you have a property. And this year, you don't report any rental income. Well, that's fine. One possibility is the property was vacant. That's fine. You still can depreciate the asset, or you sold this property. Well, if you sold it, I don't see the sale. I don't see the closing paperwork. So it's going to give you the opportunity to ask, inquire from the client. So the comparative review help the preparer distinguish between valid changes and potential problems that require clarification. Again, the changes up and down could be legitimate, but also how about if something is missing? Either could be the client may forget about it, they may not pay attention to it, or they might be hiding it on purpose, but this is your job now to ask. Now, what is your responsibility if you looked at the prior year return and you find errors? Okay, what could be errors? Errors could include mistakes or omission of information. So it could be maybe you did not add a certain income. Maybe you included a deduction you were not supposed to include in the prior year return. What is your responsibility as the tax preparer? Well, here's what you have to do. You must explain to the client the nature of the error and obviously the potential consequences. So you must notify the preparer of the error that you discovered. And sometimes the error could be in your favor, sometimes it could be against the client. So sometimes it might include additional tax, penalties, and interest, and sometimes the error could end up giving the client more refund. Regardless, you have to let them know. However, keep in mind, the tax preparer cannot decide whether they need to amend or not. That remain with the client, with the tax preparer, with the client. So preparer do not decide whether to amend or not. Your job is to disclose. Disclose means you let them know what the error is and what are the consequences, and the decision to amend belongs to the taxpayer, to the client. So the taxpayer will choose whether they want to correct the error and What does that mean? It means they need to file an amended return, a form called 1040X. We'll talk about that later, but that's not your job. So for example, you're reviewing the prior year return and you discover, for example, that they did not report some interest income reported on 1099. Well, eventually the governments will contact you because the bank would report this information. But for the sake of illustration, you would let them know, look, there's $150 of income, of interest income you did not report. We just want to let you know this. You have to report this and your tax bill will go up. You may be charged interest and penalties for that. And you would let them know about the consequences. Whether they want to do it or not, that's their decision. You must disclose the issue and its implication, and the decision to amend rests with the taxpayer. Sometimes they test you about this, just make sure you know that. Now, what is your job as a tax preparer? What do you have to do in checking the client information? For one thing, you're not their auditors. So tax preparers are not auditors. You're not supposed to audit the client. You're supposed to do what? Perform your work with due diligence and reasonableness standard. Now, what does that mean? Well, generally, you would rely on the client provided information. So you would apply what's called reasonableness standard. What does that mean? It means as a tax preparer, you will generally rely on information by the taxpayer unless it appears so unusual, appears unreasonable or inconsistent with known facts. Say, for example, a taxpayer earning $60,000 claiming $40,000 in charitable contribution. Now, you're not required to verify, to audit every claim, every deduction. But if something appears unreasonable, you have to let the taxpayer know that that could trigger an audit. Why? Because the IRS will have data about people with $60,000 in earning not making a charitable contribution of $40,000. So it's a bit unusual. It could be true. I mean, you could ask them, do you have support and documentation in case you were audited? Okay, so you should ask additional questions to determine whether the contribution is accurate and properly supported, because the customer themselves may not really understand what does it mean to have support and documentation. It means, do you have paperwork from the charity that you contributed to supporting a $40,000 contribution? In case you were audited, you need to substantiate, you need to show this information. Now we have to understand there are certain information, certain deductions, certain credit, they would require substantiation. Now, what does that mean? It means you need evidence in order to be able to claim them. So here what you have is items that the government says, look, you need to get evidence before you can claim those deductions, those credits. Usually there are refundable credit. What are refundable credit? Refundable credit are credit. It means you get either an increase in your refund or a decrease in your tax liability, not based on what you pay, based on a figure that was computed and the government is giving you this amount. It's refundable. Refundable means even if your tax liability is zero, you would still get a refund. That's what refundable is. Non-refundable credit means what? It means once your tax liability is zero, even if you have those additional credits, you don't get anything. But refundable credit, you would get money from the government. And because of that, there's heightened due diligence for those type of credit. What are some examples? Child tax credit, earned income credit, or certain education credit that might require verification of eligibility, income threshold, and supporting record. Why? Because those credits are refundable credit. In the past, they were subject to abuse. In these cases, the preparer must ensure that the client provide sufficient documentation before including the credit on the return. Now, keep in mind, the client will give you information. That information will have to be confidential. So client confidentiality is mandatory, and we'll talk about client confidentiality relationship later on in depth. But the point is, you cannot just disclose this information without at least the taxpayer explicit consent, or certain rules we'll see later on. So no disclosure, the minimum, without the taxpayer consent. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. A preparer discovers that a client failed to report interest income in prior year. So you find an error that the taxpayer did not report certain income, interest income. What's the preparer's required responsibility? As a preparer, what do you have to do if you learn that the client did not report certain income the prior year? Well, A, file an amended return without notifying the client. B, report the omission directly to the IRS. C, inform the client of the error and explain possible consequences. D, refuse to prepare the current year return. Well, one thing is the extreme one is report the omission directly to the IRS. You don't work for the IRS. That's B out. File an amended return. No, not without notifying the client. Without notifying the client, you can't do it. With notifying the client, you can't do it. You need the client consent if you want to do that. So A is out. A and B are out. And D is a little bit extreme. Refuse to prepare the current year return. No, all we have to do is inform the client of the error and explain possible consequences and let them decide whether they want to prepare an amended 1040X. I mean, you want to let them know, look, if you don't do it, the longer you wait, eventually the IRS will find out, especially if it's interest income. Interest income is reported on the 1099 INT. And what happened is the IRS got a copy from the bank about your interest income. So if the bank sent them that you had $500 in interest income and you're reporting none on your tax return, it's going to be easily flagged by the software, and they will send you a discrepancy letter saying $500 was reported to you by ABC Bank and we don't see any interest income on your return. So you really want to go ahead and file that 1040X, which we'll talk about in a separate recording. Now, if you're taking this question on Farhat lectures, you can ask the AI to explain the topic, explain the correct and incorrect answer, and create a similar MCQ. What should you do now? Whether you are a student, EA candidate, CPA exam, visit Farhat Lectures for additional resources, lectures, podcast lessons, additional multiple choice, AI resources, and support by Farhat team. Best of luck and God bless.